Welcome back everyone, Oz here. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And today we've got some good old revenge stories from r/ProRevenge. Bank screws old lady, lawyer screws bank. Old lady gets millions back. Posted this on Ask Reddit a while back and somebody suggested I should cross post here. Financial advisors employed by a pretty major bank stole all the money of a wealthy old lady who was dying of Alzheimer's, and she didn't know anything until her lights were cut off. My brother was a pretty small-time lawyer and got the call to represent her. Every other big-time attorney in the area had either passed on the case or tried and failed to get anywhere. When you're up against a legal team that makes a collective $10,000 an hour, it's not easy. And since banks always have mandatory arbitration clauses worked in their contracts, she couldn't sue or even do discovery. Like, it was obvious what had happened, and the only people with access to the account were clearly implicated. But A, it was too hard to prove without any access to bank records, and B, under arbitration, it wouldn't matter anyway. They could be criminally prosecuted, but the bank wouldn't have to pay back the money. Did I mention the bank had, at this point, frozen the lady's access to her own accounts due to fraud? So she couldn't even get her own bank statements. Anyway, my bro became pretty obsessed with avenging this woman. By the time he got the case, she barely even knew what her own situation was most of the time. But her son just wanted to make the bank bend over, and my brother was all in. He managed to find an incredibly obscure technicality that nullified the arbitration clause, and was able to force a major bank into the discovery process. That alone was a huge enough deal that the decision was written up in many legal newspapers across the country. After fighting and delaying discovery until the very last minute, the bank dumped 200 plus boxes of documents on my brother the Friday before the Monday discovery hearing. He had 72 hours to go through tens of thousands of pages of documents. He rented himself a hotel for the weekend so he'd have no disturbances, had a friend bring a dolly and hand truck the boxes to the hotel room, and got to work. In one of the boxes was an email between a bank VP and the bank's chief lawyer. I incorrectly described this as two VPs in my previous post, discussing how there would never be a discovery process, so there was no need to destroy documents, i.e. future evidence, and also saying that they weren't worried about the little old lady's lawsuit since the bank had frozen her accounts, so she wouldn't be able to pay her lawyer and he was just a small-time country lawyer. Their words, who would surely quit once he wasn't being paid. It wasn't like he worked for some huge firm that could just pay his bills while he worked. They also discussed how the lady would likely die of Alzheimer's before her accounts would be unfrozen once the fraud was proven to be false. Oh, but they had my bro all wrong. Of course, he was working all day on paying cases and then staying up half the night working on this one, sometimes without getting paid anything for months. We did the math later, he made about $2.75 an hour for his work over a span of 7+ years. Anyway, these chuckleheads openly discussed several illegal acts and emails to each other, and then openly failed to destroy the paperwork proving they had actually undertaken those acts. Which, legally, they could have destroyed at the time, but they were so arrogant, they thought they didn't have to. When my brother entered that into evidence Monday morning, they immediately motioned for a recess and offered to settle for an undisclosed sum. He also won his client $10 million in a separate part of the lawsuit. One agent recently finished serving a long sentence in the same federal prison as Bernie Madoff. He also lost his home, the beach home he bought with the old lady's money, had his financial broker license revoked, and his wife left him. However, his kid did get a private college education paid for in cash with the lady's money, and he bought $200,000 worth of wine that was never recovered. Sadly, the lady did in fact die before the case settled, so the money went to her son and to a large charitable trust that then elected my brother as the main trustee. So he gets to disperse the money he won in the settlement and see a lot of people benefit from his work. The funniest part of this revenge was that the apparent motive for the theft was not that the agent wanted to be rich, he had accomplices, but he was the main mastermind. He specifically wanted to use the money to enhance his standing in the community. So actually, he donated a lot of the stolen money to charities so that he could be invited to huge galas, get philanthropic awards, etc. Now he is broke, unemployed, divorced, and disgraced. While my brother is going to galas and getting philanthropic awards with the money this guy helped pay for with the sale of his houses, cars, etc. Pretty sweet. This whole case kind of reminds me of Better Call Saul. Anyone else kind of getting that, feeling with the Sandpiper Crossing lawsuit in the beginning, season 1, that lasts until like season 3? Yeah, that might just be me. Biological mother tries to cause me emotional turmoil, so I take what she believes gives her value. Her man. Now, I know you must be thinking, what kind of Jerry Springer ProRevenge story am I getting myself into reading? Well, I promise, it's not a Jerry Springer episode, and it's not what you think. So, a little bit of backstory here. I didn't grow up in the best environment. I've experienced some crazy things, so, of course, I have some wild stories. My biological mother is, quite frankly, one of the worst people on the planet. I suffered physical and mental abuse from her. She's addicted to methamphetamine and is Christian, but with a touch of insanity. She believes that she is a saint, yet she can't get the Bible right. For instance, I was originally supposed to be right-handed, but because of her deluded belief, she thought that was the devil's hand. So, she put a sock on my right hand and forced me to write with the left, and would hit my right hand with a metal ruler if I tried to use it. I'm sure many of you know that the left hand is actually the devil's hand. Ironic, really. Luckily, the last time I ever saw her was when I was 10. At 16, 5 years after I had been adopted, she found me on Facebook and I tried to give her a chance, but she barely talked to me and never apologized for anything, so I left it at that. We don't have a relationship. Fast forward some years, I've turned 20 and I'm making my first big move. I moved several states away from the one state I lived in my entire life. I also desperately wanted to leave because of the constant reminder that she was only 1 hour away from me. I went to meet my biological father and his side of the family and agreed to work with him. They are amazing people. I got to live in a big city, have a cool, trendy, but very dangerous job, and party with the rich people on weeknights. I was living it up. My dad stood back, let me have fun, and made sure I was safe, all while posting me on his social media, doing events and showcasing the product I made that he helped me design. Being a proud father at the fact that I was interested in his profession and with his help actually made a successful product. My biological mother was on his social media and saw it all. After almost a year of it, I guess she finally lost it. I had no idea she knew where I was or what I was doing because I didn't have her on any of my social media, but that all changed. She found my Instagram and sent me a private message. What I would endure was enough to send me off the rails. The first message I got was telling me about how much of an ungrateful bitch I was, that I ruined her life and that she should have killed me when she had the chance, and that I asked for deserved everything that was done to me in her care. I, of course, defended myself, telling her that she doesn't know a damn thing about me and that she couldn't tell me what I was or wasn't, and that she was no mother of mine. Here comes the disgusting part. She accused me of sleeping with my own father. I was disgusted and I actually felt sick to my stomach having to read something that messed up. And that is when the anger really took over. She never spent a day in prison for the crime she committed against me. Every time she got arrested, she'd rat on her dope cook, which resulted in her getting released. And I was out for revenge. I wanted to take what gave her value, and I know this woman better than anyone. She believes that what gives her value is having a man. And I took him from her. Yes, I know it sounds bad, but trust me, it's not what you think. Let me explain. Because she messaged me on Instagram, I obviously had access to hers. Mine was private just in case she decided to try to re-enter my life. Hers, on the other hand, was wide open and I could do all the snooping that I wanted. And that I did. I no longer had my Facebook, but my dad mentioned that he did, so I did the obvious. Get on his account to see if they were friends. They were. More snooping. I found out a few things. 1, she had a boyfriend that she flaunted, and 2, he has 3 beautiful little blonde-haired, blue-eyed girls. They were all living in my deceased grandfather's house. Now, I couldn't remember the address, so I went to the Google Street View, typed in the town, and looked at every church there until I came across the one I knew all too well, directly across the street from my grandpa's house. The Street View blurred the address on his mailbox, but it didn't blur the churches, so I was able to figure it out, and this is when my plan sets in motion. I convinced my dad to pretend to be an uncle that was worried about my mental health, and of course worried about the safety of those 3 beautiful little girls, which I did truly worry about. If she could do the things she did to me, her own daughter, who knows what she was doing to those 3 girls that weren't hers. I had him call the Child Protective Services department that handled my case. Surprisingly, after 10 years they still remembered me, but more importantly, they remembered my biological mother. I listened in and whispered in my dad's ear the entire time. I had him play the uncle because I was afraid that if it was me and my dad against her, they would suspect collusion. So, worried uncle was the perfect third party. We told them everything, every disgusting message she sent me, and I could hear them typing it all into the computer. We also made sure that they knew that I went through a closed adoption and that I get to decide whether or not I'd like a relationship with her, that I do not want that. So she was not only breaking the law by contacting me, but she was also doing it in a harassing manner. After the long talk with the messages, the lady asked my uncle if there was anything else she should know about, and this is where I took her man. I made sure my dad told them my grandfather's address, her boyfriend's name, and that he has 3 little girls living there with her. We voiced our concerns about the safety of those children, stating she abused her own daughter to the point the state had no choice but to take her one last time to ensure the little girl's survival, and that she isn't allowed to be around children, to which the CPS lady responded, "You're right, she's not allowed to be around children. We will be out to that location as soon as possible." The next day, all the photos of her boyfriend and his 3 little girls were deleted from all her social media accounts. I spent 11 years in the system, so I didn't have to be there to know what happened, but just in case you don't, I'll tell you how it went. A social worker showed up to the house, asked to speak to the father, to which they informed him that his children were at risk living with my bio mom, that she's not allowed to live with children, and that if he didn't vacate his children from the property immediately, they would be forced to take them into protective custody. He, like any good father would do, left that day with his children. The good news, she has not contacted me since, and the best part about it is that I know that she knows I'm the one that fucked up for her. I took away what gave her value, and there's not a damn thing she can do about it. See, what makes a good revenge is not just making sure that you hit them hard, but hitting them hard where it hurts, and OP did exactly that. She knew exactly what would make her mom squirm, and she targeted that and executed perfectly. So, good on you, OP. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and if you want notifications, ring that bell as well. And if you would like more of my content, feel free to click the on-screen cards. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.